think I might be like a cricket whisperer. Like, I don't know what, well, animal whisperer. I don't know what I do with animals, but when I'm around them, they just are really calm. Look, why are they not freaking out? Okay guys, so I get a lot of questions about feeder insects, especially crickets, and so today I decided to sit down and just do a Q&A, and I'm literally reading the questions off live, so I might ramble a little bit. This might be a long video, but I hope it helps. So one of the first questions I get asked, like, all the time is, why don't your crickets go crazy and jump around? Now, the main thing I do is, look at them, they're not even moving. I move very slow, I don't make too much of a noise, I don't know, they just do this. And when I pick them up to feed them to my geckos, I usually, once again, move quite slow. If I was like rushing this about and scooping them, they're going to move quickly. If they even move now, but if I just do this, they're not that bad. They've always been like this, and obviously I get new ones each month, so it can't just be the individuals, it's just obviously the way I move stuff. I'm very calm, I guess. Another thing is I use standard silent brown crickets, and they're probably the better crickets out of brown crickets and black crickets, and also smaller ones jump way higher. If you have a baby gecko and you're feeding small crickets and you're thinking, oh my god, these are crazy, that's probably why. When they get to standard, medium, large size, they don't tend to jump that high. Also, it might be to do with the container they're in. Now this container, I'd say, it's probably 20-25 centimetres tall. If you've got a shallow container, they're going to be jumping out all the time, so get a decent size container. If I could, I would probably have this a little bit bigger. Okay, so I asked you guys to send me questions on Instagram. Now the first one is, what are better, crickets or locusts? Right, so I always use crickets, but I don't really have a problem with locusts. There's not that much nutritional information about them online, annoyingly. However, I know people who use them and they're totally fine. The reason I don't use the locusts is because I find that you get more crickets for your money compared to locusts, and I have heard people say that when they get locusts, they tend to grow really quickly, and locusts can get really big. The other thing is, feeder insects really shouldn't be released into the wild, but if a cricket escapes, it's not necessarily the worst thing. However, locusts can be extremely destructive, so they're really not great to release into the wild. Okay, next question. I heard that crickets have hard wings that are difficult to ingest. Is this true? No, the wings are pretty flimsy. Their main use is to attract a mate, and they go together like this, and that's what you hear when you hear the chirping sound. It's just the wings going like that. They have like little comb like things on it, and they scrape against each other. Right, next question. How long do crickets last when kept in a cricket keeper with appropriate food and water, and do they need any heat when being kept? Now, if you're on about the cricket keepers you get in shops with the 2 black tubes, I don't like them. I think they are way too expensive for what they actually are, and they're too small for a decent amount of crickets. Even this I think's too small. Like, I would prefer to get a bigger tub, to be honest. I don't think they'll last as long. Obviously, I haven't used them for my reasons because I think they're too small, so I couldn't say for sure on like that. But for me, in this kind of container, my crickets will last a month, so I'll probably buy maybe 200 crickets every month. And obviously a large proportion gets fed to my geckos, and then some just die naturally, and by the end of the month I have to go and get some more. Right, the next one. Why are crickets the best food source for leopard geckos? I don't think necessarily they're like the best. I think it's best to give your gecko a variety of feeder insects, so mix it up with crickets, dubia roaches, mealworms. I think variety is just key, really. But crickets and dubia roaches do have lower calcium phosphorus ratio, so when you dust them in calcium you get a level sort of ratio, and that's a lot healthier for your gecko. Okay. How do you keep them alive longer, and what kind of substrate should you keep them on? Okay, to live longer, always provide them with fruit And the best thing is to give them something with food but also moisture. Moisture. Because that way they get their food but they also keep hydrated, because if they don't have hydration they just die basically. That happens a lot with like insects, so make sure that. And also, if you use bug gel, I know a lot of people use this, but please keep in mind that the bug gel is just water crystals and that has no nutrition for your crickets, so that's good to keep them hydrated, but that's not giving them any nutrition. So if you're going to use that with like lettuce or cucumber, I don't know, any sort of other fruit or veg you can use. And as for the substrate, all the crickets we get, I don't know if this is just different, like in Britain we tend to get our crickets in boxes, and they already come with this like bug rub flake which they sort of break down. That's what I would recommend. Okay, is it worth putting up with them? I have dubious which bred, and now I'm waiting for them to get big. Should I just make a second colony instead of buying crickets for them to just die, eat a lot and make noise? I think crickets get a bad rep online because people are like, they smell, they're noisy, they poop a lot. Okay, one thing, these don't make any noise. These are silent crickets, and usually it's because they're probably too young to actually develop the wings yet. You get the odd ones, but I feed that to Diego. But these literally make no sound. So always go for the silent cricket option. I'd say try out crickets. You can get just a little box or bag wherever you're from. I know they sell them differently. But just try them out. Give your gecko a bit of variety whilst you're waiting for the dubia roaches to grow. And they're really not that difficult to look after. Should you feed dead crickets to your gecko if you found it dead in your cricket keeper? I don't have a gecko though, just a question. Okay, no, don't bother if they're dead. When it comes to things being like dead crickets and that, I actually tend to tip them outside, and the reason I do this is because I always think that like other animals could benefit from it. So even like ants, they could take a bit of the dead cricket back to their nest and they could benefit from it. So yeah, I just throw them out. I wouldn't try giving them to your gecko. Okay, this person asked for proper cricket care to prevent them from dying before you can feed them to your geckos, and best food to gut load them with. Okay, really simple, just give them fruit. Fruit is great with food and it has moisture. Perfect. It can go off and it can go mouldy, but make sure you keep it clean. And other than that, they'd just be fine. I don't really, it's quite simple to look after them, really. How can I tell what food my gecko likes? If they're eating it, they probably like it, to be honest. Like, I really hoped that they would all like dubia roaches, and right now Diego and Minnie are probably the main ones that eat it, but at the time Gizmo and Ziggy weren't really eating anyway, so you got to take a risk. It's handy if you have more than one gecko because you can try out more different live food, because you know at least one of them will probably eat it. But yeah, just try, really, and if your gecko's eating it, then it's probably fine. I believe this person also asked me something about if their gecko is puking it up, or throwing it up, sorry. Yeah, if your gecko is throwing up the live food, it's probably too big for your gecko, or the temperatures aren't right, or it could be a little bit more sinister. It could have like a parasite or something. That's extremes, but the most simple reason is normally because the food's just too big. Okay guys, so hopefully this video hasn't gone on too long, and I hope this has helped. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.